Indie studios are on the rise, developers are betraying their customers, and gaming is in one of the worst spots it's ever been in. And with all this uncertainty, I'm going to try and predict the future of the gaming industry. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and let's get into the video. First off, I just want to say the downfall of gaming was inevitable. If you were to Spider-Verse your way into a different dimension, battle passes would still exist, Redfall would still be $70, and Diablo 4 would still be selling horse armor for $65. This spiral into chaos was written in prophecy the moment two people picked up a controller and started playing Pong. The truth of the matter is, it's an evil world we live in, and businessmen in suits will do anything possible to suck you dry, yes you, of every single sweet dollar bill you have. You know, it's kind of funny, because the current CEO of EA had this to say about the future of gaming. When you are 6 hours into Battlefield, and you run out of ammo in your clip, and we ask you for $1 to reload, you're not really very price sensitive at that point in time. A consumer gets engaged in a property. They might spend 10, 20, 30, 50 hours on the game, and then when they're deep into that game, they're well invested in it. We're not gouging, but we're charging. And at that point in time, the commitment can be pretty high. But it is a great model, and I think it represents a substantially better future for the industry. Oh my gosh. Now that we have read that and collectively agreed that this man is a certified scumbag, I have to admit I've lied to you. This is not the current CEO of EA, but was a previous CEO from 1997 to 2013. This sudden increase in monetization wasn't out of the blue. Oh no. I hate to break it to you, but these corporate so-and-sos have been cooking up ways to drain your pockets for decades now. Now, I think we can all agree that taking advantage of your player base is malicious in every right, but if you know anything about the world, wherever there is a producer, there has to be a consumer. There is a reason why AAA developing companies have been steadily increasing prices of games, microtransactions, and paywalls, and I'll tell you now, it's because we're still buying it. I know one of you sick-minded fiends out there bought that $65 horse armor, and I'm here to tell you, you are the problem.
You guys make me sick to my stomachs, fam.
To put it simply, if we, the gamers, decided to stop buying battle passes altogether, battle passes would simply vanish. Because even though businessmen love making money, they hate losing money even more. What even is this image? Why is he getting like Thanos snapped? If we stopped buying games like Skull and Bones, Redfall, and Gotham Knights, which by the way were all $70, we would get games that actually feel finished and not rushed to meet some sort of deadline. But sadly, I know, and I bet you know, that won't happen. There are simply too many people who willingly give into these scams we call video games.
What do you mean by that?
If you don't believe me, Diablo Immortal, one of the most shamelessly obvious pay-to-win cash grabs in recent memory, made $500 million. What? And that was just in its first year. So yes, I do think we are going to continue down a path of careless monetization because these huge companies know more times than not they are going to at least break even in revenue. But there is a caveat to this. You see, there's a reason why Blizzard decided to make Diablo Immortal incredibly pay to win. It's because the Diablo games were revered as some of the best in their genre and had an army of fans just waiting on the edge of their seats for just a little taste of a new Diablo game. Blizzard could have created a new game in a new franchise, but trying to build an all-new fanbase off of a blatantly shameless cash grab would probably not have gone very well. And this concept of favoring established franchises rather than new ones is not just being displayed with Blizzard, but can be seen in multiple different gaming companies. I believe this is what happened with Anthem. For those of you who don't know, Anthem was a third-person looter shooter made by BioWare and published by none other than EA.
Brother,
Even before its release, Anthem had amassed a significant following, and fans were eager to play. When Anthem eventually dropped, fans loved the core mechanics and combat of the game, but couldn't help but notice a lack of content. The main story was very short, and there was very little to do outside of it. Fans were demanding an explanation for this drought of content, and eventually BioWare came out and said that they were no longer working on the game. Now, although we can only go off of what the developers at BioWare tell us, it seems like it's a funding issue from EA's side. Putting stories together, it seems like the narrative we have right now. It sounded like EA demanded much more, much faster from BioWare than they could handle. And when BioWare asked for more funding to meet these demands, they eventually said no. And seeing as the game was underfunded, underdeveloped, and had no resources being put into it, BioWare decided to eventually just pull the cord. And like I said before, many gaming companies are showing this type of behavior. In Respawn's case, they, might I add, tragically canceled Titanfall 3 in the middle of development to focus on Apex Legends. In Epic Games' case, they halted focused development on Save the World when they realized how much of a cash cow Fortnite was. And in another case with Blizzard, they essentially cut out entire chunks of content in Overwatch 2, essentially leaving it a shell of what was promised years before. All because they thought it would be too hard and take too much time to keep their word. So where do we go from here? If every large company is putting all their time and resources into their biggest games, what will we be left with? When Apex Legends is dead, when Fortnite is abandoned, and when World of Warcraft runs out of middle-aged men, our fallback will be indie studios. The people who don't care about scamming their audience and just want to make quality games. Those are the people we will be left with, and frankly, I'm okay with that. If you don't believe me, just think back on what games have been blowing up recently. Lethal Company, Palworld, Baldur's Gate 3, all these games were made by independent studios, and were some of the most popular games from 2023 leading into 2024. So honestly, if I had to make some sort of timeline of what I think would happen in the future, it would look something like this. In the next 10 years, I think all big gaming companies will fully allocate all their resources to their one or two most popular titles, instead of spreading out resources and creating new titles. After that, in probably about another 10 to 15 years, those big games will eventually die off and these huge companies will be left with no direction. Over this time of roughly 20 years, in the background, small independent gaming companies will be rising up and gaining respect through their numerous small-scale releases. In the next 5 years, these independent studios will usher in their new age of gaming and take the place of the big studios before them. Where eventually, down the road, in some amount of years that I can't even begin to predict, the cycle will eventually just reset because we all know, if nothing else, history always repeats itself. Thank you everyone for watching. This was a super fun video to make and research. Do I think all of this will happen exactly as I think? Absolutely not. But from what has been demonstrated over the past couple decades, I think it's the best guess. And hey, if you guys liked the video, maybe consider subscribing and checking out one of my other videos. Like always, my name is Ghost, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.